Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we're going to take a look at Jupiter's square to Neptune, which is coming through today. It's coming through yesterday. It really is the transit of the week. Yesterday we took a look at it from the standpoint of historical tracking. Today we are going to put it into that archetypal vacuum, as I like to say, and sort of turn the jewel. We're going to give you 5 things to watch for given the archetypal combination of Jupiter and Neptune. I'll be taking into consideration the position of Jupiter in Cancer and Neptune in Aries as well. But a lot of these delineations should work when it comes to understanding the combination of the 2 planets in general, so that you could always use this as something to work with going forward anytime you see the planets combining in the future as well. So I hope that this will be both educational and context specific enough to be really useful for what's happening this week. Anyway, that's our agenda for today. Before we get into it, as always, remember to like and subscribe. If you watch regularly, it really helps us grow a ton when you do those 2 little simple things. If you're not yet subscribed, it means a lot to us. Transcripts of any of these daily talks can be found on my website, which is nightlightastrology.com. When you go over there, remember that we have just a few days left in our registration period for the upcoming Year 1 program that begins this weekend. So go to the first year course page, click on first year course. You'll be taken over there. You can learn about the program and everything that it includes. It starts this weekend, June 22nd. So you have just a few days left to register. Registration options are at the bottom of the page. This is a year-long course in ancient Hellenistic astrology with this kind of psychological and archetypal mix that's present in all the work that I do. But this is a great way to deepen your practice and study of astrology, become more of your own astrologer, maybe even learn to practice for other people. Some people come in with that specific intention, and our courses are really set up to meet you where you're at in terms of your interest and your level of interest in what or why you're taking the programs. At the end of today's content, there is a 12-minute long informational video that is tagged on at the end. So if you want to stick around, I will probably cover everything that you need to know, any questions you might have in that video. Be sure to check out the need-based tuition option if you need a little help to make the program happen. That tuition assistance gives you a sliding scale to work with in terms of a monthly tuition that you can pay. We do that to make sure that no one's priced out of studying something that is obviously sacred. That's a big part of our vision at Nightlight. Other things to remember coming up this weekend, if you go to in-person events under the events page, we have a summer solstice gathering Saturday night from 6 to 8:30 p.m. at the Grapevine Collective in New City Center, Minneapolis. If you're in the area, please RSVP, let us know you're coming. Come join us for an evening of hanging out, talking. We'll talk about the summer solstice. We'll do a little movement and meditation. A great way to ritualize an important point of the zodiac and a turning of the solar year. Also, if you go to events, you will see that tonight, this is where my live talks. Tonight, I am giving my talk on Uranus into Gemini, and that will be Uranus into Gemini trining Pluto in Aquarius. The talk is called When New Objects Appear in the Sky. Not too late to register. You can join this evening. And if you can't attend the live webinar of this talk I'm giving, you'll get the replay afterward. So that those are a few new things coming up at Nightlight. I hope you'll be able to attend and come along and study with us. So on that note, let's turn our attention to the real-time clock. All right. So we are today, Thursday, June 19th, and we've got coming into the last part of this moon cycle. And as we do so, what we have is this historic square that's just finished between Jupiter and Saturn, and that is now completing with the subsequent square to Neptune. So if we go back to yesterday, we'll see that between yesterday, June 18th, and today, June 19th, the square has perfected. They're still just within minutes apart of an exact square today. So if we take this forward just a little bit, give it a full degree of separation after the square, June 23rd. We get the cazimi with the Sun and Jupiter on the 24th. And then we get the new moon on the 25th. Those are going to be our points of interest next week. Really epic start to the new moon cycle in Cancer. It is fascinating to me that we've got a cazimi with Jupiter, a new moon following directly after it, and both coming right off from Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune squares. Again, we're going to take a lot of time with that next week. But for today, I want to continue our exploration of this historic Jupiter-Neptune dynamic. This is, of course, hard to separate from the Jupiter-Saturn dynamic, which is also happening. The Jupiter-Saturn dynamic will often coincide with major historic shifts in things like government and policy, in the way we shape and structure meaning, purpose, direction, philosophy in our personal lives or any specific area of our life, what to speak of historically, societally, collectively. And it's been a big moment. I'm recording this right now a week prior to your hearing it. I always record a week of content in advance. And so as people right now on my channel last week are watching the Mars-Uranus dynamic unfold in the collective with riots and protests and demonstrations, and that major Jupiter-Saturn moment set right next to Mars-Uranus was something I covered on the channel a week prior to it all happening. So collectively, there's been quite a showing of these energies that's dynamic and concerning. And yeah, it's like right on time. History's right on time, isn't it? With Jupiter square Saturn providing major moments of inflection for the direction of a country or policies and laws. It's as you guys know on my channel, I stick to coverage of things that are affecting us personally, psychologically. That tends to be my focus. And, you know, I let people, other astrologers whose focus is the mundane, really cover those topics much better than I do or care to. But it is worth mentioning that these historic outer planetary cycles, Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune, Saturn, Neptune conjoining, these tend to coincide very predictably with major shifts in the story that's unfolding in different collectives, a nation or a country. Right now, obviously, I'm thinking of the United States, but I know a lot of people listen to this from all parts of the world and things going on all around the world. And the tracking of outer planetary cycles will often coincide with, you know, major narratives that are unfolding in other places as well. So anyway, all of that is just to say that by the time this transit comes through and you're listening to this real time, it'll be interesting to see where things stand, because I'm just now seeing, after making all of the Mars, Uranus, Jupiter, Saturn content a week prior, now as I'm recording this week, I'm watching all of this stuff unfold, very Jupiter, Saturn-like. All right. So we have the Jupiter square to Neptune that is technically taking place yesterday, Wednesday, but is still very present today. It has been present for at least a week and will continue to be present the next few weeks, and really does tone the entirety of the next lunation cycle. As I said, we'll talk more about that the start of next week. So 5 things to watch for given this combination. What can we expect anytime Jupiter and Neptune meet? That will be through the history of their cycle, as we outlined yesterday. So I really highly recommend doing the tracking that I recommended from the entirety of the last cycle and the start of our new cycle, which began in April of 2022, just so that you can have a feel for the kinds of things that tend to unfold along the entirety of their cyclical dynamic. That's a much better way to practice astrology, frankly, than just putting it into a vacuum and saying what's happening right now, because these cycles in particular tend to describe big sweeps of our personal and collective history. So when we do put them into an archetypal vacuum and we turn that jewel to catch light bouncing off the different angles of the archetypes, here are some of the things we're going to see with Jupiter and Neptune in particular. One of the things that tends to be associated with Jupiter and Neptune is the two, when you put them together, have this way of delivering narratives, meaning storylines, that are very epic and grandiose. The two come together and there's something kind of oceanic and huge and all-encompassing about the stories that they tell. Let me give you an example. Throughout thousands of years of astrological history, we have seen the planets used by people from all different groups and nations and communities, because astrology has really been stewarded by a lot of different peoples and groups over a long period of time. Horoscopic astrology, of course, there's forms of astrology, not horoscopic astrology, that come from all over the planet. And you'll see that the same epic narratives are present in all places across the globe. It's something very human about these stories that we tell. But the stories, for example, that are common within the use of horoscopic astrology, are narratives of apocalypse, meaning a story of maybe everything falling apart, or the epic conclusion of history itself. There's a great book that was written by Nicholas Campion, who's a history of astrology teacher and expert. And he has written several books on the history of Western astrology that are just completely awesome if you want to get into understanding the history of this art form. But he wrote a book called The Great Year. And in that year, he talks about recurring prophecies about the end of days or the end of times. And those narratives typically fall along two lines. One is disaster. Everything's going to hell, right? Everything epically going to hell, falling apart, going into a dark age. You might even think of something exemplifying this, like the Kali Yuga, like we're entering the Kali Yuga. It's a dark age. I'm not saying we are or we aren't. It's above my pay grade. But certainly human beings have told stories about how everything is descending into chaos and disaster, whether it's ecological, a narrative about the globe and climate change, or it's a narrative about political demise, or it's a narrative about the improper use of or understanding of technology that's going to lead us to completely annihilate ourselves. There are recurring narrative arcs that we place over our personal and collective lives. One has to do with disaster, and let's just broadly use the word, very loosely using the word, sort of like damnation, like where everything's going to hell. Don't take that super literally, right? Just archetypally. And then the counter narrative is one of salvation. There's an Aquarian age coming. There's a bright light at the end of the tunnel. There's a sense that everything will be redeemed. This is a birth canal that we have to go through. And this darkness is nothing more than the contractions of collective labor birthing out the enlightened version of humanity, of our potential as humankind. So take that as another massive epic kind of narrative. Jupiter, Neptune, their transits tend to coincide with imagined storylines of everything. You see, Jupiter and Neptune love to unify things and bring coherence. And then Neptune sort of grants this imaginative largeness to things. And I think that's why collectively we're drawn time and time again to narratives about history itself. It's all heading toward a light at the end of the tunnel. It's all going to hell, But watch for the attraction that we feel within ourselves to something that can make sense out of all of it, that can pull it all together, that can pull what looks like just a vast ocean that can be very overwhelming and sort of perplexing. Like, what is it all? What does it all mean? Why is it all here? Jupiter-Neptune contacts will tend to try to pull it all together. Well, it's all heading toward heaven, or it's all heading toward hell. Those are two examples, but on the level of our personal lives, when I reflect back on the last cycle, as we were doing in that exercise yesterday, I'm pretty amazed by the way in which the narrative that appeared in my life was one that it was like a rainbow, like a huge arc of an imagined trajectory. Me and my wife will have a family, we'll get married, we'll have kids, and we have to separate this from the studio. This long, and now I'm in that arc. I'm like in the process of it. It was real. It wasn't like total fiction. At the same time, once you're within it, I think there's a way in which it still has to become like an everyday mundane human experience. So often the inflection points of Jupiter and Neptune are like these moments of the renewal of our sense of vision and faith and purpose, and the sense that I'm on this rainbow arching path into the future. But then so too, and I think a lot of the Eastern traditions and their emphasis on impermanence and suffering and illusion, that we have to square with the fact that this great arc, for me, for example, I look back on that Jupiter Neptune dynamic that I unpacked in yesterday about family and work, and there's a sense that this is the path that I'm meant for. It's very imaginative, there's a lot of fantasy in it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But once you're in it, there's like, yeah, but there's suffering, there's impermanence. You're not gonna. It's not like you'll finish this path at some point and go, yes. No, you'll still have to die. You'll still have to let go of all of it, and you'll still have to live day to day with an understanding of the shortcomings, the disappointments, the reality versus the expectations that we project onto things. Jupiter Neptune can be quite sparkly, so we have to allow for grand epic narratives to shape and sort of guide our path. But at the same time, we have to be, I think, just aware of the fact that for example, speaking of not illusion, but I guess fantasy and reality, they need to have a conversation with each other, which is that, hey, look, the Mayan calendar ended and I was a part of realitysandwich.com. There was a lot of emphasis placed on a collective transformative shift that was going to happen in alignment with that calendar. I was never so invested in it, but like that was a big part of my life for a while. I know a lot of other, time keeps going on, and there's new end dates and there's new Kali Yugas, and there's new Age of Aquariuses, and there's those cycles recur, because they are the imaginative lens by means of which we live a life. And that doesn't mean that they're fake or false or untrue, or that they're merely fantasies or total illusions. But it does mean that they are recurring. And if they are taken literally, not metaphorically, not imagistically, not imaginatively, because there's a reality to the imagination that's fundamental. But if they're taken literally, then there tends to be this way in which we project too much onto history. We forget that it's cyclical. We forget there's nothing new under the sun perspective. And we have to hold those two things at the same time. So these are just things that come along with Jupiter and Neptune interacting. Now, I don't mean for that to be a buzzkill. Certainly, these are moments, Jupiter-Neptune moments, that can also be deeply inspiring, and we touched on that yesterday. And it's important to have inspiration, to have dreams, to have visions. And in a way, I mean, especially my experiences with ayahuasca taught me that there are fundamentally reality is fundamentally multidimensional, and that realms of heaven and hell, apocalypse and salvation, or redemption and fallenness, is something we weave in and out of cyclically in this world. So rather than thinking about it as one final end state, I like to think about the experiences of heaven and hell as ongoing aspects of reality itself. There's hell realms, there's heaven realms. And certainly history has a way of dipping its toes into either at different times. I've also been really drawn, I think personally, I'm drawn to the idea of cycling ages and stages and things like that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Certainly, like I like to say about all this, what do I know really at the end of the day? Nothing. Number 2 on my list is expanded horizons, exploration, pioneering, in the sense that more is now possible. When Jupiter and Neptune get together, the richness of the imagination, the subtlety, the invisibility, and the sense that Jupiter contacting that realm of invisible, subtle, intangible, or ineffable things makes it suddenly possible to reach or touch or understand or comprehend or bring into life through some kind of guidance system or paradigm. I think a lot about Jupiter-Neptune when I think about the transmigration of, or the migration, I should say, of yoga and yogic technologies to the West. remember, the 60s and onward, as these things were coming in, and they were really tapping into people's sense that there is a lot more out there than I thought there was in terms of my religious participation as a human being. I thought it was just sort of like Catholicism or nothing. Like a lot of people in just the last 100 years are now way more aware of the tapestry of religious and spiritual traditions on our planet. It's a very Jupiter-Neptune kind of phenomenon. So more being possible spiritually, psychologically, and in any given field of life, any given industry. The sense of expanded horizons is a real Jupiter-Neptune theme. Also, the sense that I can move into or beyond ordinary consciousness, the sort of non-ordinary, mystical, non-dual kinds of states. These moments, Jupiter-Neptune, often coincide with a feeling that I'm at a crossroads spiritually, that there's something almost slightly miraculous taking place. That doesn't always mean it's easy, but that there's something fated or destined. That sense of synchronicity, historically, personally, that takes place over the course of a season of our life, where everything feels like, oh, I'm in a fast-moving channel of destiny, and that can enhance our sense of life's meaning and purpose, even if the channel we're running through is filled with some turbulent events. There's still a sense that, oh, here's destiny again, and we're channeling it really quickly. Number 3, an all embracing attitude or approach. I've done a little bit of work with the oh my gosh, now I'm going to forget it. There's a type of therapy that has to do with honoring and acknowledging the different inner voices, and I'm forgetting the name of it. I read a book on it last summer, and have brought a little bit of that into my life after reading this book and taking some of the techniques that it recommended. It's basically like, who's on your inner committee? What are the voices? How do you repurpose some of the really harsh or like cruel voices inside? You don't just kick them out, but you give them a different job, or you acknowledge them and you try to understand where that voice is coming from, but then maybe repurpose it. I have been really impressed by that kind of work. It's so astrological because a lot of those voices can be found in our charts. Those voices are reflected by the psychic and psychological dimensions of a birth chart, I think. What I love about Jupiter-Neptune is it really is the overarching philosophy governing the inner committee that says everyone is welcome here, even little shit sticks. Even the voice of that stupid little asshole who's always complaining, always telling you you're ugly, But I'm kidding. Jupiter-Neptune to me is this very all-embracing. It's very positive, but it can be positive without being like sappy. If you've ever been around people who are truly open-minded, I don't mean like, I'm open-minded, stamp. I mean the open-mindedness is like, oh, this person's really honestly curious. They don't divide their life in terms of like, these are the things I believe and I think, and the people who believe the other things I don't are my enemies, and they're over there and I'm over here. I guess I'm kind of making fun of that, but like the idea really that I'm trying to get at is that you'll meet people from time to time, even if they have their own defined beliefs, views, commitments on any level, politically or religiously or philosophically, that they don't carry those things in a way that's exclusive or divisive. There's a bigness of heart, a generosity of spirit that lives in such people. And it's very inspiring if you ever come into contact with them. And I'm blessed to say that I've had a few teachers in my life who've really modeled that for me. And it's something I don't feel like I accomplish, but I certainly strive for, which is, I've got my commitments and my convictions. I try to remain open to the fact that those things are usually evolving and changing. And I try to be someone who has a generous spirit that can kind of see that there's a purposefulness behind every last thing in creation, that there is a meaning and a rhyme and a reason, a season for everything. And I don't have to understand it. I don't have to like it. I don't have to feel, I don't have to come up with some falsely positive attitude about it. But still, there's something deep inside that just says, yes, yes, yes. Okay, I accept. I don't understand, I don't like, but okay. Remaining curious, remaining thankful, remaining open. Jupiter Neptune has a very all-embracing kind of gracious space. It's funny, one of the things that happened when I was working with ayahuasca that really helped me take a step in the direction of what I'm describing here was, I would say, all the way into my 20s, and I'm not kidding when I say this, and I'm sure some of you can relate. There was rarely a day ever in my life that I can remember looking in the mirror and liking the way I looked. There was always a negative voice that was present that said, you don't look good enough, or sometimes even meaner, you're ugly, and lots of other very specific criticisms. I really don't remember ever looking and liking what I saw. I know a lot of people can relate to that. I know, because I've talked to so many people over the years in astrological counseling, that I know I'm not alone in that. Then these ayahuasca ceremonies came into my life, and I developed new eyes. I don't know how else to put it. In fact, I was just writing about this in my book, and I was just saying, like, I just learned to love what I saw. I consider it a miracle that I developed different eyes for myself, that I somehow just said yes to all the parts of myself. Now, I should qualify that. It's not, that is like, there was a major shift that happened, but it's, there's still a voice there that doesn't like what it sees or that criticizes. But I've learned how to work with that voice. I've learned how to repurpose it. Maybe it has certain kinds of critical, discriminating skills that are really nice, but not when it comes to looking in the mirror at me, like with a mean voice. So anyway, I think one of the hardest things to do internally is to develop a true, honest, not like embellished sense of self-love and acceptance. Very Jupiter Neptune. These two planets coming together are about the larger embrace that we can have for ourselves. And the basic thing that I learned in those ayahuasca ceremonies was just a different way of seeing myself in the mirror, and also not to go in the opposite direction of being like, you're wonderful, you're just the most amazing thing ever. It was not like that. It was just, you're good enough. You are what you are. It's more like an acceptance than like some inflation, right? But then in time, acceptance leads to appreciation, and appreciation leads to a more intimate connection with yourself. That's certainly been my experience, although it's, I think, like probably many of you, it's an ongoing thing. I love Jupiter Neptune moments in terms of the ability I have to say yes to more than I thought I could, especially about the things that I find unlovable about myself. Usually that work, by the way, for me, most directly translates into being a better parent for my kids. There's a lot of the child within us, I think, that Jupiter and Neptune helps us to, it's like the wisdom of a child, like that, look at children if you want to see and understand heaven. There's something in us that, like, my experience is a lot of children, not all in all moments, are very all accepting and embrace. Like, so similar to my dog. My dog loves me, like, no matter what, all the time, always happy to see me. I think that Jupiter Neptune often brings in more of a childlike, accepting, inviting, embracing energy. Now, number 4 on my list is what gathers versus what separates. Here, it's very simple. Jupiter and Neptune are together in some interesting signs. Neptune in the sign of Aries. Although Neptune always has a way of emphasizing unity, like the ocean as a single thing. In Aries, it's interesting because people can gather and unite around what divides and separates. Jupiter in Cancer loves to gather things together along bonded emotional lines. groups, families, clans, tribes, cultures, races, religious groups. Jupiter in Cancer can be very communal and very much about, like, blood is, what's the saying? Blood is thicker than water. Is that how it goes? You get it. So when Jupiter and Neptune come together, I really think in these signs, in Aries and Cancer, I think we're looking at the potential for that sense of where are the dividing lines between groups or communities, and competing definitions of what we should all be united under philosophically or emotionally. This is the Neptune in Aries, Jupiter in Cancer, to me feels a little bit like the Hatfields versus the McCoys. You remember that? There was a show, I think. It's like an Old West story about like rivaling families. I think the question behind this philosophically, given the intense presence of Saturn with Neptune, both in Aries, a martial sign, and then Jupiter in Cancer, this sign of emotional and familial, tribal, communal, ancestral unity and legacy, is what brings us together versus what separates us into various groups or factions. The sense that those grand narratives are being guided by different emotionally charged affiliations, one type of unity versus another. Not surprising that when Neptune was in Aries, the Civil War began. So I'm keeping an eye on that personally and collectively, because there's very well could be something coming up that says, well, you have to make some kind of choice across, firing lines or something. What is the deeper sense in which we can invite unity, a unity consciousness amidst times of great division? I think that's a profound and not easy question right now. Number 5, origin myths and redemption narratives. Also, questions about where things come from. What is the origin of this problem and how is it solved? What is the origin of our issues ancestrally, karmically, historically, and familially? Or ancestrally, I guess is good enough. So anyway, so Jupiter square Neptune to me has to do with questions about where everything came from, and how do we redirect something with a problematic beginning toward a promising end? Again, kind of going back to those grand narratives about history. Jupiter Neptune can also be very personal in that sense, though, where the question is, what are my roots? Am I still loyal to them? Am I going in a new direction relative to where I started? So questions about where everything comes from and how things can be corrected if they need to, or how things can be open to change, even if it's not continuing on the same path that it started from. These are the kinds of things I would not be surprised to see, given the incisive martial quality of Neptune and Aries along the unity and origin themes of Jupiter in Cancer, a sign associated with the birth of the cosmos, the birth of humankind, and birth in general. Also, births that have a tremendous, impactful starting point come to my mind with Jupiter Neptune right now, like the promised child motif. Jupiter Neptune feels to me, and I said this when I was looking at Jupiter Saturn, a little bit like, in the beginning of the Christian story is the promising young child that has this kind of prophetic power coming behind it, the star that's followed, the attempt by a king to kill this child because it's threatening an old way of life, the hiding of the child, the birth of the child, the promise, all of those things. You can feel how charged they are with meaning and hope and redemption, but they're clouded with a sense of danger and maybe a rocky start. I think that's probably getting at some of the presence of both Saturn and Neptune in the mix of the square to Jupiter. But anyway, I'm rambling a bit now, so I'm going to stop here. We'll have a little bit tomorrow looking at transits coming in over the weekend. And I want to also remind you that right now we are in the process of co-host auditions for the show. So if you are very thankful for Alex and Dana's year of service and Whitney and Alexandra's year of service, they will be around creating some bonus content in the channel over the next year. But we are also now holding auditions for new co-hosts. The only requirement, you can go over to nightlightastrology.com and check out the co-host auditions. So I'll take you over there right now. You can see it right here in the top right corner, co-host auditions, and then you'll see everything that's required. You have to be a currently enrolled Nightlight student or alumni to submit an audition. We use this as a way of helping promising astrologers coming through our programs to build their platforms and their careers. And to me, if my platform and the community, the school, can be a place that builds the success of the larger field of astrology and a promising, generation of young new astrologers, then I feel like that's the kind of legacy I want to leave behind. So anyway, on that note, hope to see some of you audition. And also, informational video on the year 1 program. You have until this weekend to register. New class starts soon. Hope to see you there. Bye, everyone. Hey, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. I'm excited to tell you about our upcoming program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. It is our first-year course in Hellenistic astrology that begins at the end of June. June 22nd is our starting date. I'm going to take you over to the course page to tell you more about the program and what you will learn while you are in it. So here we go over to the Nightlight Astrology website. You can find this at nightlightastrology.com. Click on the courses tab, go to the first year course. Now, this program is ideal for people who maybe have a little bit of background already in astrology. Maybe you've done some studying on your own independently, taken some courses or webinars and workshops, but you're looking to deepen your understanding of astrology. And maybe Hellenistic astrology in particular has been calling to you. I'll tell you more about what Hellenistic astrology is in a minute, but on the first year course page, you're going to find everything that the course includes. I want to make the structure of the course clear first, and then at the end, I'm going to tell you 5 reasons that I think anyone might have for studying astrology, and you can see if you check any of those boxes. First of all, there are 30 classes on the year. It's just a little under a year-long program with 30 webinars. Every webinar is 2 to 3 hours long, including a lively Q&A and conversational section after we finished our lesson for the day. Each of those lessons I lead personally through live webinars, so you can attend those live. If you want to follow along at your own pace in your own time, on your own schedule, you can always look at the recordings and take those in. And I'm going to show you what the class page looks like so you can see how you can interact with the course as uniquely and creatively as you want to. But you can either attend the live webinars or listen to the recordings or audio or video. In between major units of study within those 30 classes, we have separate classes outside of the 30 classes that are essentially tutoring sessions led by our staff, our course directors. We have 3 of them for our first year program, 3 tutors that help me guide every single class you're in and lead study sessions, and are also staffing an interactive group forum discussion where you can ask questions, look at charts, practice what you're learning with all of your classmates and with tutors there to help you. They'll always answer questions within a business day. So it's a really well-staffed, well-structured program. In between those major units of study and the breakout sessions, we also have guest speakers that come in throughout the year that you get free access to. The recordings are archived for you in your class folders. So you're getting people within our curriculum. And you're also getting to visit with some astrologers who are outside of the Nightlight School, but we really admire their work, and so we bring them in. You also have a ton of bonus material. With every lesson, we have recommended quizzes, study guides, optional reading. And that allows people who are really, really, intense, deep, like studious types to go as far as you want to with the material, while other people who are maybe, content to take things in at, just kind of taking in the classes, that's there for you too. So you can kind of go as deeply as you want to. The class, as the year goes on, goes through major units of study in ancient Hellenistic astrology. So if you're not familiar with ancient Hellenistic astrology, this is the earliest form of horoscopic astrology. This is where the astrology that you've probably learned today comes from originally. And that makes some of its features unique. Like, for example, ancient astrologers utilized whole sign houses. We study why they used whole sign houses, how they used them, and we study the why behind really everything: houses, signs, planets, aspects, dignities, essential and accidental dignities, delineation approaches. How do you read and predict? within a natal chart. All of those theoretical areas of astrology, we not only learn how to do, but we learn the why behind it. And this is what I think people find most empowering about the course, is that ancient astrology really helps to give you the rationale for everything so that you have the insight available to go off script. What I mean by that is, like, let's say you're learning about a sign, Aries or Taurus or a Gemini, something like that. Ancient astrology won't just give you a list of the adjectives or keywords or descriptions of, say, a sign or a planet. It will give you an underlying philosophical explanation that then allows you to extrapolate from it the kinds of lists that you read in textbooks, which means you'll have an understanding of why everything on a list in a textbook is there in the first place. And you'll also have the insight and creativity available to add things to the list that are a part of your own unique intuition and contribution to astrology. And this is what ancient astrologers wanted students of astrology to learn, the why behind everything. So this is a class where, even though you're seeing things like planet signs, houses, dignities, aspects, and you're like, oh, I've already learned about those things. Not if you haven't studied Hellenistic astrology. I don't mean to sound condescending, but like, truly, most people's experience coming through this program is, wow, I had no idea all that I didn't know about the roots of everything that I've understood thus far about astrology. So it really is about digging into the philosophical core of why we do everything. And then you have greater intuitive and creative capacity as an astrological craftsman or craftswoman. So anyway, that's a brief explanation of why I think Hellenistic astrology is important. Not to mention that ancient astrology was really focused on our ability to accurately describe and predict things in the realm of karma, fate, and destiny, whereas modern astrology's hallmark and strength is psychological depth. And so when you put the two together in our program, which is why it's called Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, I think you have something really special. So on that note, you can see everything that we cover here. So there's a video with some of our alumni you can watch. Everything is there on the page. Now, there are 5 reasons that I want to touch on briefly before I tell you about your payment options and need-based tuition. These are 5 reasons to study astrology that if you mark any of these boxes, especially if you mark several of them, then I think it's a good indication that you might be ideal for this program, might be an ideal fit. So the first one is, if you find that astrology has become a part of your daily, weekly, monthly, yearly spiritual practice, it is a part of how you lead an inner life, then there is nothing more empowering than deepening your connection to that language, because that puts you more in the driver's seat. It's always good to have astrologers that you rely on, teachers that you listen to, get a little objective perspective, especially when you're looking at your own chart through a reading. But there's really nothing more empowering than learning to speak the language at a deeper level for yourself. And if that calls to you, if you want to understand things and be able to speak more confidently and clearly about this sacred language that you love, and this is a great reason to take a structured program. Number 2 is that you feel called to read charts for people. And look, not everyone who takes our programs is on a professional track, but we have 4 years worth of professional training programs at Nightlight that will prepare you to read professionally for others if that's the path that you're on. Maybe you don't even know if you're on that path. That's fine too. Many people take our programs just for the sake of their own personal enrichment, and again, to be kind of more in the driver's seat with respect to your astrological journey. You have more of an understanding. You can be more confident in reading symbols and experiencing transits with your own understanding that you've cultivated. But sometimes people want to read for other people. This will definitely set you up to do that. We have a certification track where you can take exams at the end of every year. They're optional. You don't have to if you're not on that level of interest. Number 3, you have done a lot of self-study. You've heard things from here and there, but you're looking to bring it all together. It is overwhelming to study astrology on your own. So if you want organization, structure, and coherence, what you're getting in this program is going on 15 years of training astrologers, 15 years of developing curriculum that has in mind the overwhelm that many people experience. And this program is structured year 1, year 2, year 3, however far you want to go with our curriculum, to give you an organized, structured, coherent way of understanding the history and language of astrology from both ancient times to modern times, in all of the vastness that the field includes. And also, as we go, we want to give you the confidence that you are a part now of an astrological lineage. astrology has always been practitioner based. Coming through Nightlight, you are going to have the opportunity to feel aligned with a lineage. If you like my work, if you feel aligned with the way I speak the language, then this might be a good reason to come study with us. Now, if you're seeking the why behind things, if you're like, yeah, that's interesting, I get it, I understand, but why? Why signs? What's the difference between a sign and a house? Why do they ever come up with a sign and a house? What's the distinction philosophically? Why does Mars represent this? Why does Mars in this sign represent that? If you are someone who feels empowered by understanding the why behind things, you are going to love this program, because that's how I am as a teacher. That's how I am as a person. And that's what this program is really all about. Number 5, you are looking for astrological community. Look, I think Nightlight is unique in terms of the kind of warmth, acceptance, safety, and inclusiveness that our community includes intellectually, spiritually. We are really pride ourselves on being a peaceful kind of family. I'm a Cancer, right? So it's kind of a family-oriented environment. So anyway, I will end it there. If you check any of those boxes, you may want to consider studying with us. Now, I'm going to take you over to 2 things. I want to show you the dashboard. So here is the Thinkific page. You're going to join this, and on your dashboard, you're going to find any courses that you've enrolled in at Nightlight, and there are many, so you may end up in being involved in multiple courses, and you'll find that they're all there on your dashboard. Click on one of them, and it will take you in. You're going to find that on the left-hand side, there's orientation instructions, course information, class links, and calendar, all the technical stuff you need to know when you join the course. And then you're going to find that when you go through the lessons, that the lesson includes the video, the audio, the slides, the transcripts, the Q&A box text if you couldn't make it live and see what people were talking about, flashcards, homework, a bonus PDF with all sorts of additional recommended reading, bonus videos, additional video links for bonus material. So every single time that you want to visit something within the course, everything is nicely organized. So you can see here, I'm going to pause this before it starts going, but you can embed the video right there. It's embedded and you can watch it. And then if you wanted to, you could also, right here, you could also download the video and watch it on your own device. And that's same for the audio as well. And then as you go, you'll see all of the lessons are laid out. The study sessions are also recorded if you can't make those live. So everything is nicely arranged on the website for you. And that makes it a course that if you wanted to take 3 years to accomplish, you could take 3 years to accomplish. If you want to take it for the sake of getting certified, you have the full year plus an additional year to take the exam. So, 2 years total that we give people if you're on a professional track. But most people complete the program in a year. And a lot of people, over 50% of our students go on to our year 2 and then our year 3 and horary programs as well. Now, final thing I'm going to show you is right here. You're going to find here is the enrollment options at the bottom of the first year course page. Again, this is at nightlightastrology.com, and you're going to click on the first year course, go to the bottom. The early bird payment saves you several $100s off the cost of the course. That's available till May 15th. Early bird installment plan saves you on the installment plan, regular cost of the course. That's also only available until May 15th. And then need-based tuition. All of our programs include a need-based option where we give you a sliding scale and we say, you pick your monthly tuition number within this sliding scale, which is greatly reduced off the normal tuition price. That is for people who are on a fixed or limited income, receiving disabilities, single mom, whatever the case might be. We want to make sure that nobody's priced out of studying astrology. So you don't have to feel any shame. If that is you, if you need help, if you want to take this, but you need to make it work within a tight budget, we get it. Times are tough right now. We don't think people should be priced out of studying a sacred subject like astrology. So we've been offering need-based pricing for 15 years. Nightlight is a donation-based school. It started that way. We have a sliding scale, so it's kind of like donation. You get to choose your rate anyhow. So if that's something that will help you, please use it. Thank you for listening to this. I hope it gave you a really deep and comprehensive introduction to what the course is all about and why you might find it exciting to come study with us starting at the end of June. So any questions you have about the program as you're visiting the course, email us info@nightlightastrology.com. We'll be glad to talk about anything that you have questions about. We are here and we have a wonderful staff of people at Nightlight who will be a part of your learning experience and are all glad to help you. All right, that's it. We'll see you again later. Bye.